Hello, Pod Smashers of the Internet, and welcome to another episode of Termite's Buzz, a weekly video game podcast where your host, me, Termite, runs y'all through whatever video games and trophies I am playing currently, the weekly video game industry news, and I usually wrap up the end of my show with a little retro video game discussion, because I do have an extensive video game collection, and I like to talk about it and look at it from a million different ways and facets. The name of my show, Termite's Buzz, is because sometimes I am drinking a coffee, and sometimes I am drinking the other side of the spectrum, a little bourbon or some beer. Today, I come by way of you on an kind of late Friday morning. It is the weekend of my birthday, and I'm technically off work today, though I am kind of tied into the office a little bit, getting some things done and wrapped up before my birthday weekend kicks off. I hope to find you well. Generally, I record on Sundays or sometimes Monday mornings, so I'm a little early this week. I don't have my weekend to talk about, but I can at least talk to you about my plans for the weekend. My birthday, of course, tomorrow morning is my weekly Saturday long run, which is a tentpole of my birthday shenanigans. I love running early in the morning, and I love long runs. But my absolute favorite thing to do with long runs is eating afterwards. And so for my birthday, I'm taking the family, we are all going out to breakfast, hopefully somewhere local, with pancakes, because pancakes after a long run are amazing when you have that much hunger built up from running for over 2 hours. So it should be fun. And then later in the evening, we're going to watch my neighbor play in a local band over here at a brewery called Pro Renata out here in Crozet. And then who knows what we'll fill the afternoon with, whatever random shenanigans I come up. My favorite thing is spontaneity. I love, whenever I make plans with friends, like a group event, I have to have it planned out. I need to know logistics, meeting times, food plans, itinerary. I want the full details. And that's fine. That's how I have the most fun. But whenever I don't have like a big group of people like doing something, my absolute favorite thing is the opposite of all of that, spontaneity, where we just figure it out. I just feel like doing this, we're going to do this. And the most fun is when you can build time windows of spontaneity within a good vacation plan. So you're going to say like, oh, on Monday from like 6 p.m. to midnight, all blank. You can do whatever you want. Go wherever you want to go, do what you want to do, walk, travel, public transportation, depending on whatever you're doing, beach time, what have you. You just build that time frame in, so you're just like, you block out a time and you say, you know what, here is spontaneity. I am eagerly awaiting a board game called Heroes of Barcadia, because I love Drunk Quest, which is the drinking version of Munchkin. If you've played Munchkin, it's like a card game where you build up a character and you fight monsters, and so every time you strengthen your character, your monster has a level you have to fight. So say the monster's level 10, your character needs to have a strength of 10 to beat it. Well, with Drunk Quest, you have to drink 10 times, and so a group will determine like what is a drink, and everyone's kind of on their own. With Heroes of Barcadia, your health bar is a pint glass that you can fill with any liquid you want, and it's very clearly marked what each HP point is. So I don't know how many HP points are per person, but there are lines on the glass that help you dictate where your health is, and I love it because every player can bring whatever drink they want. You can play with children, they can bring their waters, they're like, if you want to have soda or juice, whatever, you can do sparkling water, you can have beer, of course, for adults. I love that everyone can kind of have whatever drink, and if you die, you do have to fill the glass back up again, and you can fill it with something different. So if you want one beer, if you're limiting yourself, it's a drinking game where you can like control how much you drink. So it's not about getting sloshed, and we're not college kids anymore. We're parents and adults. Or maybe you are a college kid and you do want to get sloshed, then you can do whatever you want. It's so flexible. I love that. So it's like a dungeon building game where you explore you flip over tiles. It's a little bit like Betrayal in that regard, where you're discovering a house in Betrayal. But House on the Hill, I think is what Betrayal is called. But this game, you explore the dungeon, you flip over each tile until you get to like the mega boss, and you have to collect some power-ups. I haven't played it yet. I'm eagerly awaiting it to come in the mail. So think of that as kind of like my birthday present, because I'm getting that on the day of my birthday. Of course, T-Bone got me a copy of Resident Evil 4 Remake, which I don't want to start yet until I finish the Final Fantasy 16 Platinum, which is a good segue into what I'm playing and the trophies I'm getting. So with that, I am still working on the Final Fantasy 16 second playthrough. I'm skipping all of the cutscenes and side quests except for the Blacksmith Blues side quests. There's 4 of those. Blacksmith Blues 1, 2, 3, and 4, because those will unlock the ability to craft I can't even pronounce the name of the sword, Gadaramdung or something, and you want to get that on the second playthrough so that you can make the Ultima weapon. So I'm working on that. That's the one side thing I am doing with the New Game Plus mode. Other than that, I'm just streamlining all of the main story quests and trying to get it done, because you have to play through the game on the Final Fantasy difficulty, which I'm not finding difficult at all. I just mash square with auto combo and auto dodge and listen to a podcast and run through everything. It's just time consuming. That's it so far. I've died a few times, but usually it's because I'm like, oh, I didn't dodge here, or I can just move out of the range of this enemy here. I do dread the final boss rush, if you will. Like, boss rush is a term in video games where it's just boss after boss after boss, and those end game bosses are going to be brutal, I think. I don't know, because the first time I played through it was on the easiest difficulty, where they weren't too bad. But there's a lot of them, and I based on what happens during those boss fights and how you interact with the bosses themselves and the moves that they do, I think it's going to be pretty tough in the Final Fantasy mode. So I want to make sure that I'm as leveled as possible, and I want to use that Ultima weapon sword. I don't know if that's any spoilers for things. It's just, it exists. I think for me, the spoiler is what it looks like. I don't want to see any videos of it. I want to get it on my own and see it. And I won't say how you can unlock any of the other stuff. So that's that. You get the Gadaramdung sword or whatever it's called in the first main playthrough. In fact, I used it. That's the strongest sword, which is the same name as the accessory or the armor piece in Final Fantasy VII Remake that allows you to do limit breaks over and over again. So I think it's pretty cool, a little continuity there. I still have dabbled a little bit more in Advance Wars. I don't understand some of the units with Advance Wars. Like, there's this missile launcher type unit that has this range that you can shoot really far, and then for the tutorial they do that for you, and then whenever I'm controlling it, it doesn't seem to tell me what the range is, and I can never use it. I experimented on my turn, moved it in every square possible around what I could use it, and I still couldn't shoot. There's supplies and fuel and ammo too, so maybe it was that. I'm not sure. So I need to learn more about it. The tutorials really hold your hand, but then that's it. So it's me just trying to piece together all the little details about each of the units, how they work, supplying them with ammo and fuel. It's not bad at all. I'm having a good time with it, so that's pretty fun. And I need to play, now that I'm done with Final Fantasy XVI's story, I want to play Xenoblade Chronicles more. So my plan, when we go on vacation in a couple of weeks, we're going to Rehoboth Beach for a week. So Jimothy, if you're listening, we need to plan some sort of meet in the middle and hang out and get a beer or something, maybe at Dogfish Head. We'll talk later about that on Discord, which y'all can all find on my 80-Bit Podsmash Discord over at 80bitpodsmash.com, where there's a link tree, which is a huge list of links to all of my social media platforms, Twitch, iHeartRadio. Why did I say iHeartRadio? That's not social media. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, Twitch, TikTok, all of them. Discord. We're all there. We're all over the place. And I guess it's not Twitter anymore. It's X, which is dumb, but that's that. Really want to play Xenoblade Chronicles. I'm going to bring my Switch with me on vacation. Usually I bring my PS5. Not going to do that this time. I think I said that last week. So I'm going to focus on Advance Wars and Xenoblade Chronicles on vacation. And that is that. So that's what I'm playing. Still working on those Final Fantasy 16 trophies. I'll get there eventually. I think I'm getting pretty close to the end. I won't say where I'm at in the story for sake of spoilers. So, on to the news this week. Again, I don't have Friday's news, so if anything big happens on Friday, I'll have to talk about it next week. But the first item on my list here is that Tencent moves to purchase a majority stake in developer Techland. So Marcus Stewart writes an article over on Game Informer. Dying Light developer Techland has announced a partnership with Tencent that will see the massive Chinese holdings company become the studio's majority stakeholder. In a blog post penned by Techland founder and CEO Powell Marchuka, he explains the studio has partnered with Tencent for support of its continued expansion of the Dying Light series to ensure its upcoming fantasy RPG lives up to expectations. Quote, teaming up with Tencent will allow us to move full speed ahead with the execution of vision for our games. We have chosen an ally who has already partnered with some of the world's finest video game companies and helped them to reach new heights while respecting their ways of doing things. Powell states that he will remain CEO and Techland will retain full ownership of its IPs. He also assures the studio that has full creative freedom. That's important. While the Polish company is best known as the maker of the Dying Light series, Call of Juarez, and the original Dead Island, it also has a publishing branch. Titles released under the umbrella include Arise, A Simple Story, and Torment: Tides of Numenera. This is business as usual for Tencent, which has dipped its hands into a number of game studios in recent years and has invested in or outright acquired companies such as Epic Games, From Software, Turtle Rock Studios, Riot Games, Ubisoft, Activision Blizzard, Remedy Entertainment, among others. For more on Techland, you can check out the piece of concept art from their new Fantasy IP, as well as their Dying Light 2 Stay Human review. So there you go. Tencent coming in. The big monster behemoth from China. It rubs me the wrong way. I don't like it. I don't like Tencent's involvement in the gaming industry. I don't know if you've been following the PGA, US Live, whatever that's called, golf situation with Saudi Arabia. But same situation, you've got a very problematic government, a government that does not value its people or its humanity of its people, with very, very terrible work practices and business practices coming in and taking parts of our gaming industry. It makes it so the moral quandrum of like spending money on games or specific games from specific publishers and development studios, that money is going back to the machines that continue to push inhumane working conditions and terrible treatment of humanity. So I'm not going to get too much into the involvement there. I thought that Techland was a Microsoft studio, but I guess I was wrong. They're just truly third party. Okay, yeah, Techland is not being acquired by Microsoft, as a quick Google says. So it looks like Tencent just increased their stake. So they didn't buy it outright, but they are the majority stakeholder. So just creeping in. Taking money, I don't like it. It makes me uncomfortable. On a much happier note, there is a RPG inspired by Chrono Trigger from the development studio called Sabotage Studio, who made The Messenger, if you remember that. That was a side-scrolling Ninja Gaiden-esque 8-bit/16-bit ninja scrolling platforming action game. Sabotage Studio is making a new RPG that's very much like Chrono Trigger, so much so they got the original composer of Chrono Trigger's music to do the music for this new game. It's called Sea of Stars, comes out August 29th. I already had it on my radar. I was going to buy it day one, and I'm hoping to have some of these platinums wrapped up by then so I can make room for it leading into September before craziness happens. But the big news here is on PlayStation Blog's website. The level designer from Sabotage Studio, Philip Dione, writes that Sea of Stars will be available launch day as a PlayStation Plus game catalog title on August 29th, and a demo came out on July 25th. So go check that out. I haven't played the demo because the demo does not carry over into the main game, but also on PlayStation, famously demos have if there are trophies in the main game and you do the stuff in the demo and then you transfer your save from the demo to the main game, those trophies don't pop again, and I hate that. So I'm not going to play demos. I don't do demos on PlayStation. However, it is also going to be day one on Game Pass, and I don't know about the demo on Xbox. I haven't investigated that yet, but maybe you can play it over there. So Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. This is the one that requires the Plus or the Premium level, or Extra and Premium, of subscription. So the basic like PlayStation Plus won't get you this game day one. But I'm really excited about it. If you don't know what this game is, please go look it up and check out the trailers. Sea of Stars. If you loved Chrono Trigger at all, you will absolutely adore this game immediately. I can't wait. Speaking of PlayStation and PlayStation Plus, the PlayStation Plus Essential, that's the one that's the cheapest, lowest tier. Games for August 2023 are announced. PGA Tour 2K23, Dreams, and Death's Door. That's a good selection. Death's Door, I hear, is very, very good. Penguin talked highly about it. I think it's a roguelite. I'm not sure. A top-down action game from the creators of Titan Souls. Playing as a crow employed to retrieve lost souls, you venture out into the world of living in search. Oh, it's a Souls-like. Yeah, sorry, not a roguelike. It's Zelda and Souls-like. And then, of course, Dreams is Media Molecule's and creation engine game. You have access to a powerful set of tools that let you make more or less whatever you can envision. But if you don't fancy that, you can simply play all of the thousands of bizarre and brilliant things already made by the community. Heads up about Dreams, apparently because of the support being pulled, which happened a few months ago. Some of the trophies, I think, are unattainable. So if you were looking to platinum Dreams, it's highly unlikely you will be able to do so unless something changes. And then, of course, PGA Tour 2K23 is a sports title for PS5, PS4. So enjoy those. I will always, as always, claim them every single month. Death's Door, it was always on my list. In fact, it's on my wish list to buy. I was going to get it on sale. Apparently, it's not too bad for Souls-like as far as difficulty is concerned. I will leave that up to my own judgment whenever I get around to playing it, if I ever do. Speaking of Xbox, a little bit back a few stories ago, there's a brand new major update to the Xbox Home on the Xbox Series consoles. So Ivy Krislov, the senior product manager lead of Xbox Experiences, posted July 26th. Starting today, a new home experience is rolling out to all Xbox Series XS and Xbox One consoles. This update is designed from player feedback and makes it easier to discover new games, rediscover games you already love, connect with communities, and create a more personalized experience. So I have been refreshing my Xbox every day in anticipation of getting this, because I'm always excited about big console updates, especially when they rearrange the home screen's UI. So they're rolling it out over to a subset of all the Xbox consoles, and then over the next few weeks, it'll be available for everyone. So I don't know when you'll get it. I constantly spam the update. I've seen some people on Reddit already get it. The feedback is generally, it kind of looks like the PlayStation 5's UI, but upside down. So where PlayStation 5 has all the games at the top and like some information on the bottom, Xbox has all of the stuff on the bottom half, but it really opens up the screen so you can see the wallpaper, which I think looks clean and nice. And it has like the shop, Game Pass, and settings, search, and library icons are very small at the top center of the screen. So if at all you were following me with the mental image in your head as I described it, it's very open. It looks a lot cleaner, at least from the screenshot. But you can find the article and the screenshots online. What I just read was from news.xbox.com, their official post. So I love big new console GUI refreshments. I mean, I remember the old Blades systems on the Xbox 360. That was awesome. I miss those days. But when they moved from the Blades to like the very first iteration of what was kind of their Windows GUI, which was on their Windows phones, and what Windows 8 was doing with all the blocks and cubes. I remember like being disappointed, but also kind of like, oh, this is new and neat and nicer, and you can see more and get to stuff a little easier, maybe. I'm always hit or miss with the Xbox Ones, but this one looks good. So they've already changed the Xbox One UI so many times since its initial launch that it's almost unrecognizable, but not as big a change away from the Blades. Good old Blades. Rest in peace. And my last news story for this week. This could be a short episode. I'm only 18 minutes in, and I'm already on the last news. Not a lot of news stuff happened that I want to talk about. Some things happened, but remember, this is Termite Show, Termite's Buzz, so you only get the curated list of things that, like, Termite's going to talk about, and that's going to be the objectively like big news, but also maybe some dumb things like the Sea of Stars coming day one. Like, who's going to report on that? Termite will, that's for sure. So there were some things like some layoffs happened and such that I didn't report on. So because the churn and burn of the video game industry is normal, and I don't want to bore everyone with every single time someone gets a layoff or what studios are shrinking. And what movements happen. So I don't usually go into the minutia of things, but sometimes I do. It all depends on me. It's very subjective. You're here for the ride. Thank you for listening. It's been a long time. PlayStation 5 sales surpass 40 million units worldwide. It's pretty sweet. It's good benchmark, milestone, whatever you want to call it. This is from GamesIndustry.biz. Christopher Dring, head of games over at B2B, whatever that is. He writes this article for GamesIndustry.biz, and he says, PlayStation 5 has now sold 40 million consoles worldwide, Sony has announced. By comparison, PlayStation 4, the fastest-selling PlayStation console to 40 million, achieved the same feat 2 months quicker. The PS5 was severely impacted by component shortages, which meant Sony was unable to supplied the demand for the system during the first 2 years on the market. The console is now in full supply. The milestone follows a strong June for PS5 across Europe, with sales up 116% compared to the same period in 2022. As part of the announcement, PlayStation also revealed that there are now 2,500 PS5 games available on the platform. Sony announced that it had hit 30 million sales for PlayStation 5 in January. The company's next big push around the console takes place in October with the launch of Spider-Man 2, which arrives alongside a special edition version of the console. We launched PlayStation 5 in November of 2020, and the world was in a strange and different place than when we announced the console in 2019, said Jim Ryan. Despite the unprecedented challenges of COVID, our teams and our partners worked diligently to deliver PS5 on time. We continued to face headwinds with the pandemic, and it took months for supply chains to normalize so we could have the inventory to keep up with demand. For more months than I care to remember, we kept thanking our community for their patience while working through these issues. But now, PS5 supply is well stocked, and we are seeing that pent-up demand finally being met. So there you have it. I was going to wonder when I read the headlines, what was the comparison to PlayStation 4, which was the fastest selling PlayStation console to 40 million, 2 months quicker. So PS5 is lagging a little bit behind, but only 2 months is not a bad problem considering the supply chain issues in COVID. So there's that. I guess people were a little more flush with cash because of the COVID benefits. So they kind of missed a golden opportunity there at the beginning when the supply chains were bad. If they would have had better supply, which is impossible for Sony to control, but they would have had that 2 month window. I mean, that's not bad at all. It's good for them. I don't know what the expectation is as far as the rest of the year or like how much total millions of consoles they will sell, but I know that highest selling consoles all time. I have to look this up every time. I don't know why. I know the PS2 is at the top, but PlayStation 2 has sold 155 million total. The Nintendo DS is in second place with 154. The Nintendo Switch is in third with 125 million. Game Boy and Game Boy Color in fourth with 118 million. And PlayStation 4 sits at fifth place with 117 million units sold. So what's interesting here, PlayStation 5 hitting the 40 million mark, is that the Super Nintendo and the Super Famicom combined only sold 49 million in its entire life cycle. So PlayStation 5s are already up to 40 so soon. I mean, the entirety of the life cycle of the Super Nintendo and Super Famicom was like 8 years, from 1990 to around 98, I think. I don't know when they actually stopped production, and we're only 3 years into the PlayStation 5. Interestingly enough, the Nintendo 64 had only sold total 32.93 million units. So PlayStation 5's already outsold the entirety of the Nintendo 64. Sega Genesis, there's only 30 million of those out in the wild. And then the original Xbox, there's only 24 million of those. The GameCube, 21 million. There's almost 2 times as many PlayStation 5s as there are GameCubes out in the wild. Isn't that crazy? I always talk about how like Nintendo, every new console they came out with sold worse than the last one, with the exception of the Wii. So Super Nintendo was at the top, 49 million. The next console, then Nintendo 64, 32 million. And then the GameCube, 21 million. And then the Wii U, of course, 13 million, which is awful. So Nintendo really had to turn it around. I mean, they were in dire straits back then with the failure of the. I mean, it wasn't a failure as far as like our love for the GameCube, but as far as the console sales and the numbers, like it was not doing well. And I imagine it was hard to overcome the small disc because developers had to buy the disc from Nintendo because it was a proprietary size, that mini disc for GameCube, and like I'm sure that cost extra money, and publishers were not willing to do that. Not to mention the differences in hardware between the GameCube, Xbox, and PlayStation 2. But anyway, I digress. So good job, Sony, selling 40 million PlayStation 5 units, living and kicking. There will be a huge push come Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man sells things like crazy. Spider-Man is nuts. It's a crazy good IP. So I'm sure there will be a super big surge of sales between October and, of course, the holidays. Are both things that would increase sales of a console, and now we have both of them together. So it's going to be nuts. I'm sure we'll hit new milestones by the end of the year. All right. With this, I'm going to move into our little retro segment here. I have been working through Video Game of the Year by Jordan Miner. It's a book you can buy. I love this. I love his take on the games of the years. It's not Jeff Keighley's awards. It's not a rundown of the most popular games. It's kind of his take on, and he flavors this, how video games have been relevant in our culture. So they're more like cultural zeitgeist games, not necessarily the most technically excellent games. And I'm gleaning more of that. I mean, that's kind of what he says in the foreword and the intro, but it's not explicitly stated. But now that I've gone through, I don't know how many years with y'all here, and I'm continuing to read through the book, and I looked ahead to see like what the next ones were, whatever games were, and I was like, oh, these games may not have sold the most, they may not have even reviewed the highest, but they were the center of cultural discussions, and they were like hitting all the Twitter headlines, and they were the games that people talked about a lot. So it's interesting. I will get there. We're going to go through years 2001 through 2004, but first, I have a little sidestep. I want to talk about Disney Infinity, and I'm going to be upfront with you about this because a coworker of mine wants to offload his Disney Infinity figures, and he's looked up on price charting, as we all should be aware. There's a website, pricecharting.com, that tracks all sales of video games, and you can track things like Amiibo and now these Disney Infinity characters, and you can track their prices, and you can see their rarity, you can see what people are looking for and how much they're spending on it. So he has a pretty large collection of Disney Infinity characters. I wouldn't say pretty large, a medium-sized collection, and he wants to get rid of it. He wants to sell it, but he doesn't have any gamer people to like talk to. So he's talked to me about it extensively, and I don't have any need for them. I don't think he's selling the game itself or the little platform you scan the figures on, so this is just the figure. So I'm calling out on my show for any collectors out there who may want to have access to some Disney Infinity characters. I'm going to list the ones that he has, but before I do that, if you don't know what Disney Infinity is, you have no idea what I'm talking about. It's an action-adventure sandbox toys-to-life video game series developed by Avalanche Software. I'm reading from the Wikipedia. The setting of the series is a giant customizable universe of imagination known as the Toy Box, populated with toy versions of iconic Disney, Pixar, Marvel, and Star Wars characters. As Avalanche Software was closed down in May 11th, 2016, Disney announced that the franchise would be retired, despite some sources stating that there were some major plans in place to keep the series alive and the presence of numerous new characters and playsets previously planned. Avalanche Software has since reopened under Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment. However, quote, gold editions of the 3 games in the series were released for Microsoft Windows via Steam in 2016, which contains all of the existing released figures and playsets content up to and including the 3rd game's Zootopia figures. So that's kind of that last statement there with the Wikipedia is what really dictated the value of these figures. It seems like on Windows, you can get a gold edition of the game, and it contains all of the existing released figures and playsets up to the 3rd game's Zootopia figures. So if you have that, you can do that. You don't really need the figures to get the content. The cool part about the collection is that you have the figures, you can set them up on your shelf, you can display them just like Nintendo's Amiibo, and these things are not nearly as expensive as Amiibo. Their Disney property. So if you remember that at all, there was a whole bunch of different games from the PlayStation 3, 360, Nintendo 3DS, Wii, Wii U, PlayStation 4, PlayStation Vita even, Xbox One, all over. There was many types. And there was Disney Infinity 1, 2, and 3, and they all had their own sets of stuff. So if you're looking for this stuff at all, I'll run through the list here. Please reach out to me through 80bitpodsmash.com's, any of those platforms. You can email me directly at 80bitpodsmash@gmail.com. You can reach out to me on Discord, private message, or you can, I don't even know, private message on Reddit, on X, Twitter, however you want to get in touch with me. There's plenty of ways to do that. So please reach out to me if you are at all interested in this. I know he's willing to let go of these figures for a fair price. So just because price charting has them listed at a certain price, don't be discouraged. He can talk. And so just let me know, and I'll put the two of you in touch, and you can figure it out. But he's got the following: Agent P, Ashoka Tano 3.0, Anakin Skywalker 3.0, Baymax 2.0, Black Suit Spider-Man 3.0, Black Widow 2.0, Boba Fett 3.0, Captain America 2.0, Captain America the First Avenger 3.0, Chewbacca 3.0, Darth Maul 3.0, Darth Vader 3.0, Dash, Death Star Crystal, Drax 2.0, Ezra Bridger 3.0, Finn 3.0, Groot 2.0, Han Solo 3.0, Hawkeye 2.0, Hulk 2.0, Iron Man 2.0, Jack Sparrow, Kylo Ren 3.0 Light FX, Lightning McQueen from Cars, Loki 2.0, Luke Skywalker 3.0, Marvel's The Avengers playset Crystal, Nick Fury 2.0, Obi-Wan Kenobi 3.0, Obi-Wan 3.0 Light FX, Phineas, Princess Leia 3.0, Rocket Raccoon 2.0, Sorcerer Mickey, Star Wars Twilight of the Republic, Thor 2.0, Venom 2.0, Vision 3.0, and Yoda 3.0 Light FX. He has marked that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those figures are rare, and that is Black Suit Spider-Man, Captain America the First Avenger, Kylo Ren, Phineas, and Sorcerer Mickey are the rare ones there. So I don't know if he would part with the whole set or individuals, what have you. You got the list. Let me know if you want them. Disney Infinity, check it out. Go look into that. Unfortunately, I believe I was just too old, just barely too old to appreciate how cool those were. I got into Amiibo though, so what does that say about me? I love Nintendo. That's what that says about me. So on to the games of the year from 2001 through 2004. And these are, again, my formative years, my golden age of gaming, when I was the perfect age to appreciate all the new tech coming out. So 2001 was a lovely little title for the original Xbox called Halo, the Xbox Savior of the Year. Fight an alien menace as the heroic Master Chief and fight your friends in innovative multiplayer modes in this sci-fi first-person shooter. So in case you guys are not familiar, Halo is developed by Bungie, who makes Destiny now, and they had a few other hits on PC back in the day before they were partnered with Microsoft to develop a first-person shooter on consoles. And so what made Halo so good is a lot of things. First off, it was an entirely new console manufacturer company entering the space with the demise of Dreamcast. There was only Nintendo and PlayStation left, so Sony and Nintendo entered the market. Was Microsoft. They thought they could brand or use their DirectX APIs from Microsoft Windows, to create a proprietary console and enter the video game space, and they had the money to do so, certainly. So they needed a really big title to sell and move console units. Something new, also very PC-esque, given that it's DirectX, it's Microsoft. And so it's really bridging that gap between console and PC for the first time. In fact, a lot of the components that make up the Xbox hardware is like a triple core like PC processor. And so using the closest thing to the PC architecture that we've had since in 2001 to PCs. So it's interesting. So I'm going to read some of the stuff here because the words in the book are much better than mine. So Halo's finely crafted user experience made it a great launch game on Xbox, but its content would make it a great game no matter what. Halo is chock full of fun and fresh ideas, far more fascinating than the generic military sci-fi theme may imply. The Halo itself is a giant ring-shaped alien planet that serves as a main setting. Along with blasting through linear corridors, Halo lets you explore lush natural spaces on foot or with rugged vehicles like four-wheeled warthogs and flying banshees. It's not completely open world, but you have a lot of freedom in how to approach enemy encounters in a mission like Silent Cartographer. Having only 2 guns also makes you carefully consider your attack plan. Halo offers a nice blend of conventional firearms, pistols, and shotguns, along with mysterious alien weaponry like Needler, which peppers opponents with purple spikes until they explode. So those are the components that make Halo as special as they are. This was the first time there was a full-blown first-person shooter available on console of this scale and magnitude. So we had, of course, console being the key word here. The closest first-person shooter like this is the original Half-Life, where a story is being told around you, around the player. But previous to Halo, as far as first-person shooters are concerned, there were some Doom ports and GoldenEye 007 on the N64, which was legendary in and of itself, but very linear and very tight compared to what Halo was doing, which greatly expanded the scale of what could be done on consoles in the first-person shooter space. And this isn't even talking about the multiplayer aspect, which allowed system link and 4-player split screen and some of the most legendary combinations of maps and modes you could ever have. I think that just set the world on fire as far as multiplayer console shooters are concerned. Absolutely legendary game. Cultural zeitgeist is to say the least. Set the framework and the foundation for Halo 2, which was the launch of Xbox Live, which was the first console connected to the internet via broadband with a big giant service that allows parties to join together and like move from game to game with voice chat integration all on a console. Just absolutely innovative and never before seen in the console space. The fact that the Xbox had a hard drive from day one, you can install game stuff too, and like games could be loaded quicker from the hard drive, allowed for some of the tech behind the scenes for like Halo to be even able to play on consoles. So really good stuff here. I'm glad that it was 2001's game. So moving on to 2002, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, the crime of the century. As newly freed mobster Tommy Vercetti, unleash whatever chaos you want in an open world and forge your own criminal empire through any means necessary in this drug-fueled 1980s city that definitely isn't Miami. It's an 80s Miami, right? Is that what it's supposed to be? So, wondering why this Vice City is on this list of games of the year, but Grand Theft Auto 3 was not. Again, this was released for PlayStation 2. In that year, of course, 2002. What year am I on? 2002, right? Is that what it is? Yeah, 2002. I'm going to answer the question by reading the book because there's a great... I kind of missed Vice City. I dabbled in Grand Theft Auto 3, and I remember being blown away by the sandbox of it all, where you could just do whatever you wanted to do whenever. In fact, so much so that I didn't ever play the missions or the story. I just had so much fun jumping in cars, using the cheats to get all the weapons, causing absolute chaos, getting your warning level up, cops, helicopters, tanks, not tanks, but like armored vehicles everywhere, just crazy. Never, like, you could never do this stuff in video games before, and felt like so empowered and so in control. Like, oh my gosh, you can do this, you can do that. What? You can climb this building, you can go into here, you can swim over there, you can. Whoa, it's just crazy. Vice City took all of that and like really brought the storytelling aspect of what we know today as like Rockstar, what they could do. So this is like Vice City is really the first grounded the book actually says it, so I'll just read here. Vice City also fully embodies the swaggering sense of character we expect from Grand Theft Auto. Rockstar, particularly its co-founders, brothers Dan and Sam Houser, loves aping popular gangster movies when writing these crime epics. Vice City drips with bloody affection for sensational sleaze like Miami Vice and Scarface. No one remembers Grand Theft Auto 3's blank protagonist Claude. No one can forget Vice City's clever hothead anti-hero Tommy Vercetti, voiced by none other than famous Goodfella and late Ray Liotta. At times, GTA's rigid cinematic story feels at odds with its otherwise non-linear gameplay. You get strange, discordant movements like characters going from a serious cutscene to a ridiculous player-controlled massacre or two. However, GTA's narratives also give you some context to hold on to, a reason to push forward when formless violence grows stale. With their intoxicating mix of lurid thrills and genuine drama, gangster movies make up some of the most acclaimed films in the canon. Why should gangster video games be any different? So there you go. Vice City refined the game mechanics GTA 3 established. It polished the controls and technical interface. You don't make something that bold and original without leaving behind some jank to clean up. Vice City also vastly improved the game's sense of place. While GTA 3 featured a passable modern-day fake New York, Vice City itself is an incredibly convincing cocaine-fueled, neon-drenched fake 1980s Miami. Despite how far the city stretches, each humid inch here feels carefully constructed, whereas lesser, lazier open-world games blatantly copy and paste sections to artificially inflate their maps. Looking at you, Saints Row, you see the Human Torch in every Grand Theft Auto city. Again, while their tones couldn't be more different, Rockstar's games display a very Nintendo-esque commitment to craft. So that is why Vice City made the list and not GTA 3. I know I've always wanted to go back and play Vice City, but it's so old and so clunky and so difficult to get. Like, it did not age very well. A lot of the mechanics are now bad. So it's a rough one to go back to, but I would love to do like a quick mainline playthrough of that game. It's just not quick. It's huge. So I agree with this book. It's good. 2003, The Legend of Zelda, The Wind Waker. The Nintendo Left Swerve of the Year. Solve puzzles, conquer dungeons, and sail a vast ocean in a vibrant cartoon-styled Hyrule. This game right here is such a Nintendo summer memory of mine. I can't even, every single summer, I want to play Mario Sunshine and Zelda Wind Waker. This is the quintessential Zelda for summertime. It's absolutely awesome. The music is amazing. The expressive nature of the cel-shaded graphics. It's so much fun to play. The combat is fluid. It's everything that Ocarina of Time could be on a next-gen system. And speaking of that, this is why it was such a big deal in 2003. In 2003, I was a junior in high school. In Space World, at the Space World Trade Show in the year 2000, Nintendo showed off a GameCube Zelda tech demo featuring a grueling sword battle between Link and the evil Ganondorf that looked straight out of the Lord of the Rings movie. People lost their minds, myself included. I remember losing my mind of excitement. I can't believe this is what Zelda's going to look like. This is the next Ocarina of Time. Oh my gosh, the GameCube. Oh, I was so excited for the GameCube. When I saw that 2000 Space World Trade Show trailer alongside like Luigi's Mansion and the next Rogue Squadron, and then the Smash Bros. Melee stuff, I was just over the top hype, excited for the next Nintendo console. I could not wait for the GameCube. Then a year later, in 2001, Nintendo fully unveiled the next-gen Zelda game, The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker, and people lost their minds again, but for a very different reason. I remember being kind of bummed when I first saw the cel-shaded Zelda. I was like, I trust Nintendo. At that point, I'm actually impressed that I had the wherewithal to understand the gaming industry enough to be like, I trust Nintendo. It's going to be good. It'll be fine. It'll be fun. Because I was also kind of bummed that Luigi's Mansion wasn't a new Mario game, and Mario Sunshine hadn't been announced yet. So, like, Nintendo had built my trust through the Super Nintendo, the N64 eras, and with what was on the GameCube originally. So I trusted Nintendo. I knew it was going to be okay, but when I saw those cel-shaded graphics, this was like a live cartoon. One, I was impressed because the only people doing this was like Pixar in the movie space where you have a cartoon come to life. But this was really a cartoon. Like, this was the most top quality cel-shaded game I've ever seen. And I remember there was a game called like Cell Damage that was out there for Xbox. There was Auto Modelesta by Capcom on the PlayStation 2 that was cel-shaded. That looked pretty sharp. I don't know if Beautiful Joe had come out yet or been around or announced or anything like that around that time. But this was by far the best cel shading I'd ever seen. I loved the expressions that Link could make on his face, like fear, excitement, anger, happiness. And all the NPCs could do that. And before, like, you really get into knowing what the game was going to be about with the open world and the sailing and stuff and the dungeons and how it was all going to flow, all you saw was the combat and a little bit of the world. It looked good, but in the back of my head, I was just, like, irked that this wasn't the game that they showed off in the year 2000, that fight with Ganondorf. Like, I wanted that, right? We all wanted the Ocarina of Time sequel, that we didn't really get until Twilight Princess later on in the GameCube's life cycle, famously at the beginning of the Wii's life cycle. But there you go. Absolutely worth a game of the year here. They mockingly called Wind Waker Zelda. A cartoon Zelda confirmed all their fears that Nintendo's most important games would never grow up. They hated it until you played it. That was the case. You had to play it. That was it. Once you played Wind Waker, you realized what it was, and that's the true mark of a Nintendo game, right? You see the trailers and you're like, but you put your hands on it. It's all about the player feel and how much fun it is. Quintessential Nintendo move to do this to everyone. Love Wind Waker. One of my favorite Zeldas. I don't have a full official Termite Zelda ranking list, but this is pretty high up there. Highly recommend Wind Waker. The only downside to the game was the very long grind on the back third of the title where you're sailing a lot to get the last like Triforce map pieces. You've like completed all of the dungeons and you're done with the game essentially. It's like leading up to the final Ganondorf engagement, but you have to sail all over the world to do a bunch of stuff. And it's cool because it gives you a chance to actually use all of the stuff you've acquired in the dungeons and like the upgraded gear and everything. But it was really boring. So that's really hard to get through. If you can get over that hurdle, the game's amazing. It's the one thing. And they kind of fixed that in the port for Wii U, the HD port, which is absolutely gorgeous. You thought it was great on the GameCube, and the GameCube version aged great. It still looks awesome today. The Wii U HD version's even better. So There you go. They fixed it by adding a fast sail, so you like sail faster in the ocean, so it's reduced the amount of time that you spend in the water or something. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far in the Wii U remake, port, whatever you want to call it. I'm hoping they bring it to the Switch, though, because maybe I'll actually play it then. All right, moving on to 2004. World of Warcraft is 2004's Game of the Year. The Matrix of the Year. That's a great analogy because it is like plugging into the Matrix. Join millions of players in a shared online fantasy world full of quests to complete, alliances to build, and gear to collect. This game took over the world. I cannot believe how popular this game was. I cannot believe South Park made an entire episode, if not more than one episode about World of Warcraft. It took over my entire friend group. It distracted us from all console gaming, from all other types of shooters, from everything else going on in my life. I know kids who were losing it or dropping out of college, who were failing classes, who were completely wrapped up in World of Warcraft. It took over everything. I joked with Penguin about how it took him away from gaming for so many years that he missed out almost on the entire Xbox 360, PS3 generation of games because of one single title. My own personal experience with this is the same. I was extremely excited because I was into Warcraft 3 a lot. I played a lot of Warcraft 3. I loved the story, the world, the vibe, the art style, everything about the different races and classes of stuff. And World of Warcraft was that. My previous MMO experience had been Final Fantasy XI. I have saw EverQuest, and I know like Heroes of what was that game called? I don't remember. There was also like Star Wars Galaxies. There was a Matrix MMORPG. There was a bunch of things about World of Warcraft that really, really, really stood out, and why it was so accessible for everyone. So what WoW did was make all of the MMO stuff more accessible. So you have like a huge world, seamless world, lots of exploration. The graphics are kind of dumbed down, so everyone with even like a weaker computer can still play it, which is a smart strategy from Blizzard to try to increase their market share and their potential players, like to get more, to cast a wider net, like make the graphics more adjustable and make them not as intense, so you don't need to have the top of the line high-end gaming computers to play them. So that's pretty good. Ridiculously large scope and tons of quests, lots of places to explore, cool classes. Of course, you got to have endgame content with the raids and the dungeons and all those things. But to make it accessible, WoW didn't harshly penalize you for dying. It reduced tedious grinding. You can quickly talk to whoever can give you your next quest and see if the reward is actually worth it. Freely transition between hostile zones where players fight one another and zones where everyone just relaxes. Play enough and you'll earn a mount, like a griffin or a wyvern, so you can just fly anywhere. World of Warcraft balances structure and freedom in a way that makes you feel like there's always something to do, but you can also choose what you want to do. Execute a meticulous battle plan with your teammates, or like meme legend Leroy Jenkins, and shout your own name as you charge into the fray by yourself. World of Warcraft's series of small but smart tweaks added up to something so much bigger. It unlocked the MMO genre for a critical mass of players, allowing it to gain the self-sustaining momentum vital for a social game. You can't stop playing WoW. You invite your friends, and soon they can't stop playing either, and so on and so on. Some describe WoW as a chat room with pictures. While you do need to pay attention to the gameplay, especially during grueling multi-day raids depicted so well in that South Park episode, it's not so demanding that you also can't use WoW as an excuse to hang out and talk with buddies online. At the time's absolute peak in 2010, it had 12 million active subscribers. That's a lot of buddies. So, I really appreciate a lot of the things in the book here went on, like the flying mounts weren't added until later, but I remember the difference between like Final Fantasy XI and World of Warcraft specifically. Those are the two that I spent the most time with. Final Fantasy XI, I remember spending like an entire play session just fighting enemies to level up to get to the next section of quests. And then later hearing from T-Bone and his friends that they would spend weekends and like week-long grind sessions each day, each night, just fighting enemies to grind levels. That's it. That's all you were doing. You were just grinding levels to get to the next set of quests, which eventually got you to the end game where you could do the gear and the cool raids and the dungeons and things. But it was extremely slow-paced, and you absolutely had to have a consistent group of people to play with regularly in order to make any sort of progress that feels like you're making progress. With World of Warcraft, you could single things. You could just solo stuff. You can do a whole bunch of quests all by yourself. There was a slew of quests, and they're a meme now, but they're famously like, go kill 4 rats and come back and talk to me. But those 4 rats, you do it in no time. You knock the quest out in like 20 minutes. You come back, turn it all in. You get a whole bunch of dopamine with the experience you earn, items you get for free, money, gold, etc. And what was cool is the quests would walk you through the world progressively. So it would like, one quest would send you a little bit farther. And then finally, once you completed all the quests in one town, there would be a final quest that would take you to the next town. And then those towns would be linked by a fast travel network where you could hire a griffin to fly you from town to town. It wasn't free open flying, but it connected the worlds. So it just gave you like so much quicker, more rapid dopamine hits, like you were constantly achieving something, even if you could only play for like an hour on your own. And I remember just like logging in every day after school or between classes and I had a job, and so like I would work at school. I was not one of those kids that let World of Warcraft get in the way of my life. I was still working and going to school, but World of Warcraft did take over all of my free gaming time. And I think I was playing Halo 2 still, regularly online, and I just dropped that. And I was like, okay, World of Warcraft is where I'm at. And that was it for like ever. I don't recall. I got a Wii when it had come out, so it was balancing between Wii and World of Warcraft were the two things I was switching around from. But the Wii came out 2 years after World of Warcraft, so before that happened, it was pretty much it for my life as a gamer. Like PS2, Xbox, GameCube. I barely kept up with the latest releases because I was wrapped up in World of Warcraft so much. Didn't play any more Counter-Strike or Halo much. We had a lot of LAN parties for World of Warcraft, though, and those were a lot of fun. So, yeah, I went long on World of Warcraft because that was a big deal. That was a major, major deal. It changed the landscape for MMORPGs to come in the future and how they're all structured. It definitely has its roots in Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn. You can definitely see the similarities between World of Warcraft and it as far as all those little quality of life improvements and player engagement, accessibility, and the constant dopamine hits of completing lots of little smaller quests. I think Final Fantasy XIV does a better job of making them feel a little bit more meaningful to the overall story and player progression, but that's to be debated. I don't know. Final Fantasy XIV Realm Reborn quickly took over my love for the MMO genre, and it still stands today as my favorite MMO, even though I don't have any time to play it because I've got 2 kids, and I'm married, and I have a full-time job, and I really, really love trophies, and so I cannot just devote myself to one title anymore. I want to play everything. That's just where I am. I have the disposable income to get all the different games I want to play, and I want to just spread my wings and spread my fingers all over. Yes, yep, your dirty little minds are all out there laughing and giggling right now. I want to spread far and wide and play everything that I love, as you know by what I'm playing on the show every week. So there you go. Yeah, please let me know if you would like to buy or pick up the Disney Infinity stuff. Please give me any thoughts, comments, questions, concerns, ideas. I've never actually advertised a thing on the show that anyone could get, so if that's annoying, I'd like to know. I don't have any plans for that to come up again. This is ad-free. I don't make any money on the show, so I don't have a big enough audience to sell any ad space. Nobody wants to buy, or nobody wants to sell me a slot in this show, unfortunately. But give me all your feedback, give me all your concerns, let me know how you're feeling, what you're doing, what you're playing, what your summer's like, all the things over at 80bitpodsmash.com with links to all of my socials. So go check me out there. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.